this is the franchise Shane Douglas, ECW's original World Heavyweight Champion. Right now, you're watching the #1 wrestling podcast on all of Long Island, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh.
The Monte and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
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 Monte and Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
And Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monte and the Pharaoh?
Monte and Pharaoh.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and the Pharaoh Show. And it's Monte and the Pharaoh, baby.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a rush.
We've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monte and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Straight to the top. We're living this life, not just dreaming it, we're doing it for it. Straight to the top. Working hard every day just to live out that tower.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, seen only here live from Village Connection Radio, live from Rockstar Studios, and at the board is none other than super producer Mr. Stephen Miller. Stephen, how are you?
Oh, great, my brother.
And Jimmy Farrow, coming off a great interview. We return with another. In studio is our WWE superstars and AWA superstars and Florida Championship Wrestler superstars. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but here are the Killer Bees. Hello, B. Brian Blair and Jumpin' Jim Brazel. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be live in the Hive here in New York and Queens.
And also at the cross from us is none other than former UWF champion, Mr. Sonny Beach. Sonny, thanks for coming for another episode.
My pleasure.
All right, I got one question and one question only, and then we could just end the show. Which one of you are getting coronavirus?
What?
How many hands have you shaken this week?
A lot. I got some Purell in my pocket right now, brother.
Actually, fist bump.
Fist bump. Elbow bump.
Elbow.
In my current job, I'm in janitorial sales, and the amount of hand sanitizer and disinfectants has surpassed.
So you're all for this?
Well, here's the problem. People want
Jimmy's cashing.
No,
You're not feeling well.
People want the product now,
Yeah.
and it's back ordered until May.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
in order to take their order, and I mean they're big orders,
Right.
they have to put 50% down.
Nice.
Right.
Because if they don't, then what's to say they could go to
Right.
another company and say, hey, I need 50 cases.
Right.
Oh, can you get it to me? Okay, well, forget about the one, the Delco and Brunsey. So,
Well, I got to tell you, I bought some Chinese pharmaceutical stock about 5 years ago.
Right.
That was sitting idle. But once coronavirus came up, man, that thing tripled. I made a good killing, man. I'm just like, keep going, baby. Just let's keep
I'm impressed
rolling.
you held on to it for that long. That's not like you.
You got it.
Wow,
You
what
got
a
it.
patient man you
Go
are. at the end of the
coronavirus.
day.
There was actually no, you're ribbing.
That's
Right?
horrible.
No.
You're not ribbing.
I made a lot of money, man.
A coronavirus stock. How long ago?
No, it's not coronavirus. Chinese pharmaceutical. It was a penny stock.
Chinese.
I bought it like at 20 cents, right? It's at $1.20 now. And we just keep going, baby. Just
Hello.
look, I got my hand sanitizer. I'm good to go, bro. My wife was giving me shit from going to this event today. She's like, are you out of your fucking mind right now? Did you get shit for coming out here?
Nah, not really. As long as I got my gimmick in my pocket.
There you go.
I had 2 masks, but I didn't want to freak the people out.
You should have wore it.
They wanted to take, our pictures with them, and of course, they would have had to put a mask on. So
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, you guys could put like Killer Bee masks on, right? So it could be part of the guys.
they're back ordered until August.
That's so funny. Nothing worse than a back order, man. Nothing worse than a back order.
Killer Bee hand sanitizer. He's got it right there.
Anyway, look at you.
You know?
Yours is bigger than mine, bro.
That's what she
They've
said.
been,
Here we
honing
go. Open door. Walk right in.
really.
Mine's vanilla coconut flavored. What's yours?
Stop.
Mine is
I can't believe this.
aloe, refreshing.
Not bad.
Smooths your skin.
Not bad.
That's it.
Leaves it so soft you will not snag her pantyhose.
So you got soft skin. Nice work.
Soft skin.
You know what? You're still as handsome as you were a couple of years ago.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Oh my
Robbie.
You know who just said that to him?
What's that?
This is no lie. Just within 48 hours, Pat Patterson echoed the same comment.
That's shocking.
Oh, no.
That is.
No way.
Hey, he's cringing
no
already.
way.
No. Hey.
Pat Patterson ever hit on you?
Oh, would you stop?
You kidding me?
Tell him what
When
his
I-
favorite saying was.
When I first started
no.
wrestling in the dungeon with Matsuda, and then Pat was around a lot. He would come peek a little and watch, and some of the guys would come work out, more guys would come work out, and then I started to get ready for my first match, and Pat came down and he said, "Hey Brian, I'd like to teach you a couple switches and go-behinds. Would you like to learn that?" And he's looking at me like I'm dumb. And you know, stupid, he's been real serious. And I said, "Pat, I don't think so, buddy. If you want to do that, I don't think you're going to be switching on me, and I don't think you're going to be going behind me."
Wow, man.
But
We
he
love
did a lot
great-
of things. I mean, I was supposed to be mooning him. I got in the back of the Briscoes Lincoln Continental.
Yeah.
Because him and his boyfriend mooned us with the great Mephisto coming back from West Palm Beach one night.
Okay.
So the Briscoes go, "Hey, let's pull over like we're peeing. We're 20 miles from Yeehaw Junction, where we pay the toll. It's dark. As soon as they pass us up, you jump in the trunk. You get to the toll, you moon." I said, that's a great idea. So pull over, pee, jump in the trunk, pull my pants down to my ankle. Jack, can you breathe? Yeah, I can breathe great. And they're talking. They got the music up. I feel them stop. They said, hold on. Now they're peeing. Okay, car takes back off. Okay, get ready. I feel the car kind of moving. Okay, they must be at the thing. And they're talking loud. The music's blaring. Can you breathe? I can breathe. And all of a sudden, when you hear us count to 3, moon them good. They're right behind us, and there's nobody else there, Gerald Briscoe said to me, and I said, beautiful. So the 1, 2, 3, that trunk popped, and I grabbed the back of my booty, and I split it apart, and I started shaking my ass, and I turned around to see Louis Dondero, the great Mephisto, and Pat Patterson laughing. And instead, they had, all of a sudden, I heard the horn go, honk, and I turned around, and they had backed up into the Stuckey's restaurant picture window.
Nice.
And all the employees, all the people, everybody stacked up to the window, and it's honk. They won't leave, and now I've already done my thing, and I know I'm bad, and I don't know what to do, so I go to get out of the trunk. They got more than a moon. I went to grab the back door as they're slowly taking off to the highway there, and they left me with my pants down.
Oh, that's wonderful.
At Yeehaw Junction. So,
Is it windy that night?
it was very embarrassing. Very embarrassing, especially when Gordon Soley said the people of Yeehaw Junction would like to thank Mr. B. Brian Blair for his public appearance.
His pubic appearance. I mean, his public appearance.
How'd you guys enjoy the big event?
It's awesome.
It was steady, busy.
Just
A lot of. I made the comment to Eric that, we do these a fair amount of time, not as many as a lot of guys do, but I thought all the fans were really respectful and they were patient, and it was nice. It was nice. It was easy, and it went by like that.
Now, do you come to New York often or very rarely?
The last 3 gigs, or the last 4 gigs, I think 3 have been in Jersey and 1 has been in New York.
Okay. And the fans are good to you?
Oh yeah, thank God.
Who
They
the worst?
remember us.
Who the worst fans?
Boston.
Really?
That
Why?
that figures.
Because they don't care if you're a good guy or a bad guy. If they don't like it, baby, they might cut your balls
even
off.
harsher than Philadelphia fans?
Yes.
Yes,
Even
Philadelphia
harsher than
liked us,
Philly.
but Boston was.
Interesting.
No
Okay.
doubt.
Are you amazed at the staying power after all these years? The fans come out in droves for you guys?
Well, thank God they're at least 42 years old, because that's how old you got to be.
my
to remember. So
There you go.
it's the truth.
There you go.
Are you amazed at the staying power of us marks at 40?
Us losers at 40
When these millennials come up to you and they
Jackass.
say, "Yeah, I remember you," and I said, "No,
Yeah,
you're too
you
young."
go. Right, there you go. There you go.
Who?
Oh, sorry.
We were talking about the UWF in the last interview. So Dark Side of the Ring's doing a special on the UWF. You guys want to share some stories about the UWF?
I went and did that episode.
Yeah.
I flew in. I'll be in on that episode. Sonny's on there.
Yeah.
Herb was an interesting character, but you got to watch the show. I don't want to say much more, but it's going to be kind of an eye-opening. You really don't know Herb Abrams the man until you watch this show, and then you'll understand how both the UWA was funded, created, what brought the UWF down, Herb Abrams' vices, his demise. It'll go from fun to fear.
It's a very interesting story. Not like we were saying earlier, not a lot of people know about the UWF, right? Because it's pretty short lived. But for like old guys like us, right, we remember you guys coming aboard and then it falling apart like that.
There's some great talent.
There was some great talent over there for sure.
Great talent.
So you've worked for Abrams, you've worked for Gagne, you worked for McMahon. What are the differences?
Oh,
I don't think either one of you worked for Crockett, so I'm not going to throw them. You did? Okay, so okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I was down there 2 years.
So what's the difference between these guys?
Well, Herb Abrams was energetic and positive. The other two that you want to mention, Gagne and Vince, had both huge egos and were very concerned about their power. And they wielded that power at anybody's expense. And, Vern was successful for many years, and when things were falling apart, when Hulk left Minneapolis and went to New York, AWA was shaking, man. I mean, it was bad, and this is what I heard, and I've heard...
Jim, hold on a second. Can you just fix your mic a little bit? I think I'm getting feedback. Oh, that's you? Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Thanks.
So, Vince realized the situation with a lot of territories and had respect, I think, for Vern for what he did all those years and how successful and all the talent that came out there. And went to Vern and said, "Listen," he says, "I'll give you $7 million for your territory, and I'll give Greg a job for the rest of his life." And Vern said, "Fuck you." That's what he said. And within 6 to 8 months, the AWA was on a spiral. Bad. Vern went bankrupt. Greg wound up selling cars.
Wow.
And it's a shame because they had such a great, their promotion was second to none from, the mid 60s until really the middle 80s.
So did you leave the AWA just from necessity? Is that why you went to the WWE?
No, it wasn't a necessity for making money. At that time, I had my own gym, and I had my own gym from 82 to 88. And it required some money from my wrestling business. So I went to Gagne, and I told him, I said, "Vern, I says, I want to stay here. I've been with Greg 10 years, and I said, I'd love to stay here, but I need a personal guarantee from you as far as money." And he says, "How much?" And I said, $95,000 a year. And he said, "You're not worth it. You can go to New York."
Wow.
And I was completely, it was like all the wind was out of me, because I was like a son to him in the fact that Greg and I had been, and granted, we had great people who were...
How long have you worked for him before that, up to that point where he said, "You can go"? How many
10
years?
years.
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years in? Wow.
So how does he marry you two together? Is this McMahon's attempt to make the high flyers in the WWE without Greg, or how does this happen?
He was trying to find a place for talent.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
And
I was
plus
on
we were
top.
friends.
I was on top in Florida. I was actually Florida heavyweight champion, and when I left, I had worked for Vince Sr. twice, and had some tremendous matches with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And on the way out, Vince said that he wanted to bring me back for the Intercontinental belt to go to Florida. we'll start fresh coming back. And so that was already on my mind. I went to Florida, had a great run, made buku money, a lot of money there for a territory. And I remember they wanted me to leave without giving notice. And I said, no, I got to give notice because we were doing big houses all over. And I was getting ready to, I know I got a flat tire and I'm on my way to somewhere in South Florida. And the first time I ever missed a shot, I called, I didn't call, we didn't have cell phones, but I got somebody helped me with my spare tire, with my flat, went to a payphone, got a hold of Mike, I got a hold of the arena, and told him that I wasn't going to make it. And he said, there's more people outside than there is inside, Brian. You got to come. You have to come. I'll come get you. And I said, oh, okay, Mike, I'll just come down. He said, hurry, hurry. And I said, okay. And I just went home. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
Worse, I feel bad to this day about doing that to Mike. God bless him. So I went and Terry called me up, and the reason I had it in my mind, Hogan called me up and he said, listen, have you ever heard of Jumpin' Jim Brunzell? And I said, yes.
No.
Yeah, of course. I heard of him through the magazines and stuff, the high flyers. So he said, Vince wants to start a big tag team division, and he wants you guys to come in and see how you work as a tag team. I said, okay. And so we met in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, and George Scott came up to us, said, hey, Vince wants, obviously we knew we were going to be a tag team, Vince wants you to think of a catchy name. And we started talking a little bit back and forth, and then I thought about the Miami Dolphins, 72 undefeated Dolphins. You had Bonacani and Baumgartner, the Killer Bees, linebackers. And I said, what about the Killer Bees? Jimmy said, I like the Killer Bees. And George Scott came back and said, what about the Killer Bees? He said, I don't know, let me go ask Vince. Came back, he says, okay, you guys are the Killer Bees. All of a sudden, Lee Lanny reaches down in his bag and he's got Killer Bee trunks in his bag.
Really?
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Who would have ever thought that?
Yellow stripe, black,
Yeah.
horizontal, and it was perfect.
Like, hey, I got some Killer Bee shorts right here for you.
Yeah.
There you go. But the hard question is, you wore those shorts that Lanny was wearing. Did you wash them before?
They were in the package, so they were
they
new.
were clean. With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. All right, you're back with Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and Pharaoh, with our special guest, Sunny Beach and the Killer Bees. Some great stories so far. So, guys, you combined together in the WWE. I want to go back a little bit to you, Brunzell.
Yes.
You worked with Adonis and Ventura a
Yes.
lot. Can you tell some stories about Adonis and Ventura? And what was your opinion of Adrian Adonis?
Tell him to fight Danny Story of Flint,
Well,
Michigan.
I'll tell you about Adrian. Adrian was incredible as far as timing and the stuff he did in the ring. He was great. Jesse Ventura was he was very unathletic, and he was sort of clumsy. He was a swimmer in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And, he got into the bodybuilding, and he could talk, man. And he believed, there's the three biggest egos I've met in this wrestling business was Vince, Vern, and Jesse.
In that order?
So he called you. Yeah, I tell you a quick deal about Jesse. You talk to him, and all of a sudden he told you about everything that was going on with him and his family. And then, instead of saying, Jim, how are you doing? And he said, I'll see you later, Brunzy. And out the door he went,
Right.
He was just, and he's still that way now. He's, he told me that he was going to, he had, this was last year. He had told me that somebody had suggested that he run for president.
Yeah, he announced that last year.
Yeah, and I said, I don't know.
It's a bad time.
Yeah, but so.
And Adonis, I heard that he was a dick to everybody. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, seriously.
Seriously, I mean, that's what I heard. I heard he was like a total dick.
Well, here's the problem with Adrian. He became chemically addicted.
Okay.
And it changed his whole personality.
Did it?
It did.
Okay.
It ruined him
How
in
was
the
he
ring.
before he went off the rails?
He was great. He was great. He had timing when he was there with with
Keith
Jesse.
Franks.
Honestly, God, we made the biggest. That was the biggest year. And I was telling some guys, the biggest house in the St. Paul Civic Center, and this is including Springsteen.
Okay.
The biggest house they ever drew there was a cage match between Greg and I, and Jesse and Adrian. They drew over 19,000 people.
Yeah.
And Adrian was incredible, but like so many guys, I mean, pro wrestling is a reflection of society. So you're going to have the same thing. You know, you're going to have problems with marriages. You're going to have alcohol abuse. You're going to have drug abuse, and being on the road like we were 27 days a month for 3.5 years.
It magnifies all.
It magnifies and it opens up the opportunities. So that's what happened to Adrian, and we were in Flint, Michigan, and we were watching. Bob Orton and I and Brian were watching the match between Danny Spivey, who had just come in, and he was, a big, tall baby face, much on the same line as Hulk, and he was working with Adrian. And Adrian got stiff with him a couple times in the ring, and Danny he's a tough son of a gun boy, and he had told Adrian, he says, don't, screw with me or I'm going to let you have it. Well, in Flint, Michigan, Adrian threw the sleeper on him and really had it snug. I mean snug. And
it was shot deep, yeah.
Yeah. And Danny elbowed him, and when he elbowed him, he hit him with a left in the jaw and then kicked him in the mouth and split his upper lip completely in half. And Adrian was out and Danny Spivey was going to tear his eyes out.
Actually, Adrian went to leg dive him.
He
left hooked him.
No.
Oh, you're back in the
yes.
dressing room. Okay, yeah.
Brian, hang on. Okay.
I want the juicy part.
Okay. So Danny comes in that babyface locker room, and JYD's there, and Pat Patterson was the agent, and Pat Patterson's scared to death, worried about what happened, and Danny Spivey's pacing. He says, "I'm going to kill that motherfucker." He says, "That son of a bitch who did that." And all of a sudden, Adrian comes through the door, and Adrian starts talking to him, and then Adrian tries to shoot and leg dive him. Danny Spivey hit him with an uppercut and lifted him off the floor to the point of he looked like a big turtle up in the air. And when he came, I'm serious. When he came down and he turned around, Danny had split his cheek where the bone was coming right through. And I thought, shit, he's going to kill him.
Yeah.
And that was it, and that was probably
He got it one more time.
Yeah, but he was stumbling, bumbling.
He went
and you know something? He never was the same after that in the ring. Yeah. Never.
So straightened him out a little bit then.
Oh, well, it did some damage.
Yeah,
I think it really did drain damage.
So you're talking about substance abuse. Were you guys able to avoid that whole situation throughout your career?
Well, for the most part, it's not like I haven't smoked a joint or, I haven't been an angel all my life, but I've never let anything get in my way of business tomorrow.
How about you, Jim?
Oh, shit, I like drugs. I mean, all of us did. I mean, it's a truth.
Here, have some.
There was a period. It's a truth.
Why not? I mean, what the heck?
When you're wrestling 27 days a month, and you're on the road.
It looks like you picked the wrong week to stop flipping glue.
That's true. No.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was an abundance of cocaine,
right,
which was extremely popular.
Fair enough.
With society. I mean, in LA and all that, it was the same way in wrestling. And then all of a sudden, things start getting to smoking crack, and that's what really made it bad. That started happening, and guys.
People bad.
Well, it did. Well, shit, guys were dropping.
Yeah, personality
we were going to the first tour in Australia, and Junkyard Dog and Cosroe were with us, and the four of us are sitting together. Cosroe's got the window, then Jimmy, then me, then Junkyard, and so we take off. The lights start to go down. Jimmy starts to snore, and all of a sudden I smell this weird smell, and I look over and I see JVD, because Cosroe's going, "Hey JVD, give me another one. And JYD has, what she called him JVD, has the popcorn. And he smuggled the rocks in the popcorn through the security.
Wow.
Are you
It's the Rock
kidding?
Center.
That's a surprise.
So they bring
I'm
the
totally
popcorn.
surprised at this.
I'm impressed at the creativity. Go on.
Creativity.
Yeah.
We saw the popcorn, and we're on our way taking
Did it
off
have
for
butter on it?
Australia. I'm ready to play with the kangaroos,
No butter?
and I smell this. And all of a sudden, I look, and there's 4 eyeballs going.
Want a kernel?
And Jimmy wakes up, and he's going.
And they did it the whole way.
And we were going, oh my God, the flight attendants are going to kill us. God, please.
When you guys were put together in WWE, now if I'm not, you stated you were Florida champion, Mid-Atlantic champion.
Yes.
How did you guys feel when you? Was it like, oh man, back to tag teams again? I mean, were you like hoping to be like get a singles push at some point in your
If
career?
you wanted to wrestle, and that was your main mode of making money,
Grateful.
you had to go to New York
Take
to
it.
make the money. It
Right.
got to the point where nobody was making any money.
Okay.
So you had to go there.
So how'd you feel about being put into a tag team after?
I didn't mind it a
some-
bit.
Okay, Brian.
I didn't mind.
All right, nice.
So you go to Vern, hey man, I want to stay. I'm like a son to you. Take a walk, kid. You go to Greg and go, what the fuck?
Greg said he's joking. That's what he told me.
Okay, so he said, okay, since he's joking,
Yeah,
my 95
he wasn't
grand.
yeah, no, he wasn't joking. And then Greg, to the point,
But didn't you sue Vince
Greg-
before you even got
yeah,
there?
well, what happened was, Greg realized he was presented with a deal with from I think it was LJN Dolls, and they wanted to do a high flyer doll.
Yeah.
So, unbeknownst to me, I leave. I go to New York, and I get called. The next, the Vince wants to talk to me. So, I go see Vince, and he says, "Can you explain this to me?" And I looked, and it was our dolls, the high flyer dolls. And I thought, what in the hell? And he said, "You're under contract with me." And I said, "I realize that." But what had happened was, they came to Greg and offered a high flyer deal. Greg realized that the deal wouldn't be done without my name, so he signed my name. So
Wow.
he got $12,500, and $12,500 was put in escrow for me. So what happened was, when I signed the deal with Brian at WWF at the time, Vince realized that money, so he took the money, because I was under contract with him.
Wow.
But I said, Vince, I said, you know, this was done before I even signed this contract. I said I should get the money. So we litigated, and I got the money.
Oh, great.
So that was the first pin in Jim Brunzell's Voodoo Doll. That was the first one of many.
That was the day that Barry Horowitz pinned you.
No, that was later.
It was great to see Barry today, though.
There you go.
That was 4.5 years later.
Okay.
So
Took
got
a
it.
while to get back at him.
What's your guys' stance on that Vince owes every wrestler a living, even after they?
Yeah, how do you feel
left
about
their
the guys who are
organization?
broken down now and want some help from Vince, and they feel like they're owed something? Is there any validity to that? Does Vince owe them anything?
Oh
do you
yeah,
think,
I think so,
think
because
so?
we created his $1 billion fortune, and sure, you know, there was a number of us that thought there should be some, at least representation between the talent and Vince.
Mm-hmm.
And if you even mentioned that to Vince,
Yeah, you're done.
yeah, it
see
wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, everybody knows Vince was the only game in town. I mean, you either work for him and that's it. And then WCW had a little run, and you know, and it was good for the boys. And the best thing about the WWE now is the boys are making the most money they've ever made, and they're not working nearly as much.
Nearly as much.
So I mean,
Right. Were you two guys part of, this is just my opinion, I just want to see how you feel about it, were you two guys part of what I consider the greatest crop of tag teams basically in the history of this business? I mean, you guys were around when some of the greatest tag teams ever occurred. Is that one of the reasons why you guys didn't get the straps at any point? Because like, I'm the mark who sits at home and goes, where's the belts?
Right.
well, he didn't like
That's
me.
why I left.
Well,
That
we're getting there.
That was
Right.
2.5 strikes.
Yeah, we were promised the belts 3 times.
3 times?
3 times.
Interesting. Okay.
By Vince and George Scott. And I gave my notice right before WrestleMania 5 at Salisbury, Maryland, because I said to Vince, you keep telling me the money's in the chase. Money's in the chase. Well, the people are only going to believe you for so long. They believe in you and stand behind you for so long if you can't
There's a
eventually
window.
win the belt.
Yeah.
Exactly, there's a window.
That's
There's a window, exactly. So, you know, it's just, I decided I'm going to go open up some Gold's Gyms and It's the best move I ever made in my life.
All right, with that, we're going to come back after a quick commercial.
Catch.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, a special Saturday edition with Monte and the Pharaoh. In studio is Sunny Beach, along with WWE superstars, the Killer Bees. So, Cauliflower Alley Club, where does that come from?
Well, you started to mention, and you talked about briefly, the guys had no health insurance. We weren't even given a class on how to run a business, how to save your money, how to do things to get cheaper credit cards or credit cards that give you dollars back or any kind of education. Nothing. You get hurt, you pay for it. It's all you. You're an individual contractor, which I'm still puzzled at because I had several Gold's gyms, and inside a Gold's gym I could only have one aerobics instructor on contract that I could tell what to do, because if I told them they couldn't go to Bally's or LA Fitness or whatever, then they're not an individual contractor, they're an employee. Well, as a wrestler, we couldn't go wrestle anywhere else. We assumed that extra 1% tax, number one. Vince avoided the 2.5% tax.
But you could go wrestle somewhere else, but you might get punished for wrestling somewhere else,
you wouldn't
right?
come back to WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really couldn't.
So
unless you want to lose your job.
So,
Right.
but here's my: why not unionize? Why couldn't you guys get your act together and
There
unionize?
you go. There's the next step in the belt. Hall of Fame.
Actually, I talked to Gene Upshaw, who was the president of the NFL, and I told him how the wrestling business was in terms of relationship with the talent and the ownership. And he said to me, this is a long, hard slog, and he said the only way that you guys can get a union is if Hulk Hogan stands with you. And if he doesn't, forget it. And at that time, Terry's making a hell of a lot of money, and if he would, subject himself to some undue animosity by the
pressure,
by the ownership, Vince, he'd be rocking his boat. So you understand?
Do you think if Hogan had actually said, "You know what, I'm going to stand up to Vince," do you think it would have happened?
Yes, I do.
You really do?
Yeah,
Vince wouldn't have found a way to still break Hulk Hogan.
It was Jimmy and Jesse that started the whole deal. Back then, that got us all kind of in hot water, but especially Jimmy and Jesse got in hot water. As soon as Vince heard about that, kibosh. And I knew if you didn't get Hogan, if you didn't get Macho, if you didn't get all the top guys, not just Hogan, I think he would have needed more than Hogan. Because
he was the golden goose. He
no
made
doubt
everything
he was
spin,
the
man.
that's true.
That's everything.
Yeah, well, hey, if you were on Hulk Hogan's card, and you're going to guarantee the biggest sellout that possible in every town you went to, so you make the most money.
So I'm going to throw this at you. What do the Killer Bees make in a match that Hogan's headlining? What do you walk away from a house show? What do you walk away from a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania?
You benefit from his presence on the
card.
card.
How much money?
Like a quarter of a million a year.
So you're at $250,000 a year. And look, I'm not saying you're right or wrong. All I'm saying is you're individuals. You're making $250,000 a year. And what onus is it on the person to make sure that they save their money, make sure they don't get fucked up and drugged out, and and protect themselves?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just common business sense. If you want to keep longevity with your talent, you teach them, what's the number one reason people get divorces? Generally money, finances.
Oh, your wife is ugly?
Sorry. If you want to have a family, Jimmy had children. I remember when we were in Australia, and maybe it was in Australia. I remember my grandfather died when I was in Australia, and I cried like a baby, but we were somewhere, and we had been on the road 67 days straight, and his kids were I heard him talking to Mary on the phone, and they were doing like their graduation or something. And I looked, and Jimmy had a tear in his eye, and it just kind of just tore me up, you know, thinking, God,
She's
what
missing
a
something.
sacrifice, you know, to have your kids right there and this and that.
Right.
Times you'll never get back. Fortunately, I didn't have children at the time.
Right. Jim, did you ever have the satisfaction of at least expressing yourself directly to Vince? Hey, by the way, buddy. I mean, did you ever get that satisfaction, or is this all just basically been screw you from afar and through litigation or whatever?
You know what? I don't know. I've had a couple conversations with him, and I interceded a couple years ago for Bobby Heenan when Bobby was dying and been out of all this money. You know, I mean, he had so many bills from all these surgeries and chemo and everything, and you know,
And Vince had turned an eye to him, basically?
well, here's the deal.
Okay.
They were out of money. So, and I knew this because we were very close. And Cindy had told me that, you know, it's rough. So I wrote a letter to Vince and to Paul Levesque, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Paul got back to me. And Vince never did, but they wound up writing a check for $5,000 and sending it to Bobby. And, you know, it was a drop in the bucket, $5,000, but at least it was something.
Well, it's $5
But-
grand.
It was like the Cauliflower Alley Club. You know, we chipped in a lot for Bobby. You know, we
Wow.
helped Bobby a lot, but that's the last resort now is a Cauliflower Alley Club. So for all your listeners, if you go to caulifloweralleyclub.org, you can join for $25 a year. Everybody on the board works as volunteers. I mean, we buy our own reunion ticket there. We pay for our own plane ticket, hotel, everything. We just work out of the love for our colleagues and those that entertained us. You know, if Tony Atlas was down, if he knew about the Cauliflower Alley Club, or if Jimmy was down, or if anybody was down, referee, Sunny Beach, whoever, we pick people up and really try to. We've helped a lot of people. I mean, we've saved Kamala's house, $13,000, Mr. Wonderful's house. Most of the people I cannot say their names because it's all anonymity unless they say, hey, we want the Cauliflower Alley Club to be known that you helped us. And so Bobby and Paul and Kamala, all these people have said, yes, please, we want that known. They've posted it on their Facebook pages, things like that.
Well, thank God for you guys, because there may not be a union, but in a way, there's someone who cares.
It's a brotherhood.
Yeah.
I commend you guys for that. Thank you.
And one thing that's so good about this time in Las Vegas is that it puts everybody together with all the same interests. So you got 2,000 to 5,000 people, and everybody's happy. And you know, they have a great dinner. They have a good awards banquet, and you know, it's just great that there's an opportunity for the wrestling fan, other than going to the matches.
Sure.
Or being on Facebook.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, Mr. Brunzell.
Nice.
High flyers or killer bees? Which one did you like working for?
And we were
more?
going to do this if Greg was here, just so you know.
Okay.
And we were going to do it to Greg, too, just so you know.
Just so you know.
Both of our. Yeah.
Sorry, what? He's probably seen. He knows I'm nuts. Go on.
Well, Greg had turned heel on you real quick.
Oh, you're great. See, I told you he would. Actually, I'm not surprised to hear that.
He would have been a great heel. Honest to God, I could see him with blonde hair and a blonde
Why
mustache.
didn't they do that with him? You should have done that with him.
Because he was Vern's son.
Ah, phooey.
Well, anyway, you're slipping the question, brother.
Okay, the deal was, I will say this in the AWA. When Greg and I were, we had the belts a couple different times. And it was so much different working in the AWA than it was in the WWE. Because in the AWA, you had 14 guys that knew exactly where they fit. And everybody had a chance to make great money. And everybody had a chance to have time off in the summer. So we won it twice, 10 years. A great team. Greg and I, you know, we knew each other since they were 17 years old. He was a quarterback my freshman year at the university, and I was a wide receiver. Okay, then you take Brian and I together. Okay, basically we had a great tag team. The problem was that there was a certain number.
My dad wasn't the promoter.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time,
hello.
But at the same time, you know, I mean, Greg and I, we drew great houses. We did.
Yeah.
And people believed it. With Vince, it was totally different because what Vince was really doing, and actually he created a great tag team, competition with all the different teams that we had.
God.
And there was some really good teams that we had some great matches with. But the problem is everybody was so concerned with their position, they didn't really want to make the other team look that good in fear that it might damage them. And that's what we faced every night. And that's the truth.
There you go.
Wow.
So you can't accomplish the same thing as you did when you got 4 guys working together every single night to have the best match they could.
Chemistry is just there.
That's it.
The 3 times you were promised the belt, if I can ask us against, here comes the mark. Who were the champion? The nerd too. Who were the champions those 3 times? Was it Demolition?
Hearts.
Would you please?
The Hearts. The Hearts one time the Bulldogs.
Beefcake and
Valentine.
Valentine. That was them. Because they got the belts
not
before.
Demolition.
Yeah.
Any one of these teams, were they a roadblock to you not getting the belt, or was it always the office?
It was the office.
It was. Okay.
Shit, yes.
Let's go back over Brian's comments, though. So he mentioned Greg's father running the AWA. How come he just didn't put the strap on his son to keep it safe?
Yeah, why did that never happen?
Why did that just not
Because
happen?
Greg weighed 195 pounds.
Tennis legs, I told you.
And I tell you, Greg was
she's
an
laughing.
incredible worker in
tennis
the
legs.
ring. And he was just smaller. And all of a sudden, you got guys
What a
like
great
Nick
wrestler.
Bachman, he was 255 pounds, and 6'2", suntan. He
Sure.
could work unbelievable. Matter of fact, him and Dory Funk worked in an old-timers match in Atlanta and stole the show. And they were both in their early 50s.
So why didn't you say, hey, Greg, hit the gas?
I tried, and he got sick. And he had a
Did he have
impairment in-
gallstones?
No.
Did you stop?
He did that.
You're the guy who shipped him to White Castle.
Monte.
So Jim, tell me, how heel would he have gotten on him if he was here?
Well, so go back. So you ask him, you say, hey, man,
send him the
hit
junk
the
food.
gas, man. Look at Tony Atlas. Look at Sonny Beach. Hit the gas.
Greg Gagne had mononucleosis when he was 16 or 17 years.
Okay.
And he did some damage to his liver, and the doctor told him that you're going to have problem down the road, especially with drinking.
Okay.
So, and this was, young. I mean, this was 18, 19 years old. So I got him Anavar, which is it's 2.5 milligrams. It's a very good, safe anabolic that's easy on your skin and insides and everything. And it's an anabolic. It doesn't have an androgen effect, which makes you moody and off. So I gave him some, and he took it for about 2 weeks, and then he got a pain in his right side and had to go to the doctor, and his liver became inflamed, so that was it.
Oh, wow.
What's that?
With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with Sonny Beach and the Killer Bees. Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, live from Village Connection Radio, live from Rockstar Studios. In studio is former UWF World Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Sonny Beach, and again, WWE Superstars, AWA Superstars, and everywhere else, the Killer Bees.
And former UWF World Tag Team Champions.
That's right. That's right.
There you go.
That's right. So,
Stories working together.
We had some great matches with the UWF.
There you go.
Blackjack Brawl, Beach Brawl. He did 2 pay-per-views, Herb. He tried his best with what he had to work with, I guess.
was there any point that you guys thought, man, we can compete with the WWE? We might be able to take these boys,
Ryan
give them a battle?
elaborate more on that. I mean, we had some great talent. Lou Albano, Bruno Sammartino as a commissioner. We brought in Craig DeGeorge to commentate, when we first started out.
You'll see it again on
Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, on Dark Side of the Ring coming out soon, but not to give away too much. But Herb really didn't know a lot about the wrestling industry. Other than a fan.
Yeah.
He knew the fan from the fans' angle, but he didn't realize in a program like when I'd book 6 weeks out. I'd already know what I wanted 6 weeks. I want to end this in a cage match or whatever, and I'm going to lead up to it this way. we'll do this before that, and you put that piece together, then you put the next, the underneath that together, and the supporting cast together, and you build a package and a team, and you work from what your objective is, and then of course you're going to have an angle out of the objective to go the next 6 weeks, and that's Eddie Graham style booking. Okay. So he really, Herb just thought because of the names that he had and putting them on a poster that it was going to draw money, and it doesn't work like that.
No, it sounds like every independent promotion that's in our local area.
You spoke about Eddie Graham. Were you close with Mike Graham?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I just finished a lawsuit with his ex-wife.
Can you share any?
10 acres of land. We both owned 5.
Can you share any thoughts on Mike?
I love Mike. He was a good guy. Unfortunately, you know, it was horrible when his father committed suicide. I had then found out that Eddie's father, so Mike's grandfather, committed suicide, and then Mike's son Steven committed suicide, and Michael committed suicide in Steven's cowboy boots up by Daytona Beach, and it was just a very, very sad time. Mike Graham was a good man, and Eddie Graham was probably, if you ask the old timers, Eddie Graham was one of the smartest brainiac bookers of all time.
What is it about this business that causes so many tragedies? I mean, you guys have to live through it. They're your friends.
Oh, the Von Erichs. I lived with David Von Erich for 1.5 years. You know,
it's freedom. It's freedom to choose what you want to do. Everybody's, they're you know, what you sow you reap, man. So.
You think Vince ever has any guilt complex at all when he hears about the battles? Like, I'll take care of this guy, does he have any feelings towards this at all? Or?
Wow. No, I don't think so.
Really?
Outside of his family, I don't think.
He's done some big favors for some guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he really has.
Okay.
Behind the scenes, he does have a heart.
So it's not all.
No, it's not. It's not all bad. No. Okay. And his dad was one of the best men ever. Vince McMahon Sr.
We always hear the big difference between the two.
Yeah.
I mean, was Vince Sr. really like an angel? I mean, compared to Junior, we hear he was just a great man.
He's just like, it'd be like talking to your brother.
Yeah.
I never met Vince Sr., but I heard from a lot of people who did that he was a man of his word. Mm-hmm. And I'll just let it go there.
Yeah, there you go.
And you're saying Vince Jr., not a man of his word.
Well, obviously, we didn't get the belts.
Yeah,
I
got
3 times.
I mean,
he's got a lot on. He's had a lot on his plate.
Yeah.
That really went sour over the years in terms of careers and fellows. You know, I mean, it's just he'll deal with that.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a pretty strange question. Vince McMahon's getting on in age. He passes, and they're asking you to, say something about him at his wake. What would you guys say about him?
Wow. I'd say he was a man of vision that would, like in the words of Chief Jay Strongbow, always called him Caesar because he wanted to conquer the world. And I remember when Vince Sr. and Jr. were talking, and Vince Sr., because I was married to Leroy McGurk's daughter, I got to know Leroy McGurk pretty well. And he was involved with the NWA quite a bit, and Vince Sr. would come to the conventions in Vegas, and I have all the notes, a bunch of notes from several years from that. Byrne would be there, all the guys, Jim Barnett, everybody was there, and deciding who the world champion would be and whether he would go to Vince's for how many days or whether he would go to Vern's for how many days and all that. So they'd all vote on it by committee, Crockett's. And Vince Sr. had too much respect from the promoters for the territories. He wouldn't go in there because these were his friends, and they had a bond, and they kind of lived by that bond.
Must have been a shock when Junior came around.
Then, like in '86, when TBS, when Tony and I, and several other people, Tito, Tommy Rich, lots of people, started flying into Columbus, Ohio, and all these different places just off the power of TBS, cable television. So they saw that, man, we were selling these places out doing big business, big time business. And it wasn't like, you were going to Griffin, Georgia, or, Waycross, Georgia, wherever, Atlanta. It was just big time in Columbus, Ohio, places like that. Vince saw that too. And there was a big deal. There's a very heavy deal in between that most people have no idea about, how Vince bought TBS and was forced to sell it back because he needed the money for WrestleMania. So, the Briscoes made a lot of money, and all the stakeholders for Georgia made a lot of money, and Vince did what he had to do. But at that time, it was the right decision because, obviously WrestleMania 1 was a big success, and by the time he got to WrestleMania 3, that's what broke all the barriers into the white collar, rock and roll, you name it, Hollywood.
You guys were way ahead of your time as far as you were a very athletic tag team for the day. How do you feel today when you see the gymnastics going on out there? When you see the way the things have changed with the flipping and the flying and the cartwheels and they're all over the place.
First off, we never had the protection they do now.
Okay.
Everywhere you look at, you got a padded ring, you got pads everywhere.
What does Jumpin' Jim Brunzell think of all the jumping today?
You know what? They're very skilled, but to me, it doesn't tell the story. It's all just repetition, bing, 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 monkey see, monkey do. And this is what I've heard through Greg Gagne, who talked to Pat Patterson not too long ago, is that what they're doing with the WWE now is they're trying to make the matches like the games play by the kids. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And that's because he knows that's where the money is.
Right.
The kids are all playing these games and bing, bing, bing. And so consequently what you're seeing a lot of
a live video game.
Yeah, live video game with a lot of good stuff that doesn't mean anything because there's no psychology. There's no bad or good.
Well, like Brian was saying, there's no storyline.
There isn't.
You're not invested in the wrestler,
No.
right? And then Mr. Tony Atlas used to say, it's not believable that a 140-pound guy can win a world's heavyweight title when a fan could go in there and just kick the living shit out of that guy, right?
It makes it a little hard to believe.
It's hard to believe, right? So
who weighed 140?
You want me to say names? I was gonna say, but Finn Balor, Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan, whatever.
All right,
give name the list.
180.
All right, 180, 190. Look, when wrestlers, when we were watching wrestling full time, these were wrestlers, right? These guys get scared the shit out of you, right? I mean,
Killer Khan, Sergeant Slaughter, Big John Studd, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate War. These guys were huge.
Killer Bees. It was believable that you guys can fight Legion of Doom. It was believable. It's not believable anymore.
We didn't believe it, but
It's gonna ruin my replays now.
I remember one time.
Look, he's looking very.
I think
he's scared.
I was telling somebody today that God rest his soul, Mike Hagstrand. We're wrestling them in Winnipeg, and he said, "Brunzy," he says, "Do you mind if I don't go down for you on your drop kick?" And I said, "What?" And he says, "Yeah, I just soon not take a bump on your drop kick." And I said, "Okay." I says, "But is it okay if I don't take a bump from your clothesline?" And he looked at me and like, "Oh yeah." Honest to God, that's the only time that match was booked. Thank God.
Yeah. Who's the stiffest guys you ever worked with?
Who's the team?
Jim Neidhart was one. Stan Hansen in Japan.
Big Stan.
Yeah. There was a lot of guys from the generation
Bill Eady's
behind us all worked stiffer. They all did. You know?
But he doesn't hurt you.
No.
He works stiff. You better be ready.
All right, Eric Sims, you gonna jump in here, brother?
Where do you want me to go?
Go right behind Sunny Beach. The super promoter of the East Coast, Mr. Eric Sims.
ESS.
ESS. You probably got to kneel down right there, super producer.
Where do you want me to go? This way?
Go next to the saxophone.
There
Okay.
you go. Hello.
It's no BS, your cult hero. It's ESS. All right.
Eric, how long has it been since your last confession?
One more day left on the World Tour here. Tomorrow we're going to be up at the Colony Mall over in Albany, New York. So Killer Bees will be up there. Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Curtis Hughes, you'll see in the next interview. And someone who I'm a big fan of. It's still real to me, damn it. Mr. Dave Wills, who's a viral internet sensation with his it's still real crying on the internet and stuff. With what was it?
His question and answer with Terry Funk.
With Terry Funk, right. So I'm happy he's up on the tour too. So come see us up at the Colony Mall up in Albany, New York, and anything for ESS. It's ESSpromotions.com. No BS with ESS.
One thing I did learn though, and I got to speak to you wrestlers about it. If Eric can afford a driver, I think he's undercutting you guys. Just throwing that out there.
Wow. Fuck you, Monte.
What are you doing?
You learned something today about me and Eric.
I did take him to Taco Bell before. He went right there.
Anyway, I wanted
nothing. Listen, the Iron Sheik. When we're done doing our appearances, Eric, baby, I need to go to for our gourmet wrestling dinner. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh, Eric, Bubba. Eric, Bubba. You with at the Brian Blair today? Oh. I put him in camel clutch. I fuck his ass. I break his back. I make him humble. Oh, Eric Bubba. Oh, you disappoint me. Oh.
All right.
But anyway.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Are you sure?
I'm done.
All right, perfect.
I'm sure.
That was good.
I want to thank Mrs. Sunny Beach and the Killer Bees. Thank you for spending the time on our show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. All right, this has been Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, only seen here at Village Connection Radio every Thursday from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, Breaker, Channel 115 every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9 p.m. and Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6:30. Soon to be on Channel 20. All right, this is Mike Monte.
This is the Pharaoh. Till shortly. Later.